Hello there and welcome to Outer Worlds, where today we're going to be reviewing the Star Wars Retro Collection Darth Vader from Hasbro. First things first, if you are new to the channel then please hit that like button if you like what you see and consider subscribing for more reviews in future. With that essential done, on to the Retro Collection. This is Hasbro's 1/18 scale toy line for vintage Kenner Star Wars reproductions and new figures in that retro 5 POA style. So far we've had waves based on original 1978 Star Wars figures, a wave for The Empire Strikes Back, 2 waves for The Mandalorian, and then most recently the Obi-Wan Kenobi wave, which is where we got this new retro version of Darth Vader. Now for me the Kenobi show is a low point in Star Wars media. I would genuinely rather watch the holiday special. But I'm not going to begrudge myself a new take on vintage Darth Vader, which is exactly what this figure is. On the back of the card we've got various legalese in different languages and the names of the rest of the figures in the wave. Even carded like this you can still see how cool the figure looks. But I've been looking forward to cracking this one open for a while, so let's get into it. And here we have a retro collection Kenobi Wave Darth Vader out of the packaging. My first impressions are somewhat dominated by the cape. It's a head and shoulders improvement on the vinyl capes of the original vintage figures, but it's still very big and takes a bit of work to get sitting right on his shoulders. Beyond that though, the figure looks good. I always like seeing the eyes with red lenses like this, and the details on his chest and belt are evocative of a costume yet soft enough to match that vintage aesthetic. If I had to place it, I'd say that Hasbro tried to match what Kenner would have done if they'd remade Vader for Empire Strikes Back, as this figure's got a very late 70s vibe, but it's still a marked step forward on from the original 78 Vader. One of the big reasons this is a step forward is, of course, the removable lightsaber. Whilst it's not exactly new for a Vader figure to have his lightsaber as an accessory rather than part of his arm, it's still really cool to see it in this vintage style. It looks just like the lightsaber and darksaber accessories that came with Bespin Luke and Moff Gideon respectively, except this time, obviously, it's in red. It does what it needs to do. The cape comes off incredibly easily, you just have to pop it over Vader's head. It's not bad, it's got just enough weight to fall somewhat naturally, and it's thick enough to not really be completely see-through. We'll keep the cape off to look at Vader's articulation, although let's face it, we all know exactly what we're getting here. His head can rotate freely left and right, his arms can spin around at his shoulder, there's no limitations there, and finally his hips can swivel forward. Now that the cape's off you can see the sculpted lower robe, which looks really good. As you'd expect, he's super easy to stand back up, and then the cape pops easily back over his head to re-complete the look. So let's move on to some comparison shots. First of all we have the obvious one, the Kenobi Retro Collection Darth Vader next to a 1978 style Retro Collection Darth Vader. And we'll look at this comparison in more detail shortly. And then here we have them both next to a vintage collection Dark Times Darth Vader. Now it's not really a fair comparison given that this vintage collection figure is one of the greatest 1/18 scale action figures ever made, but there you have it all the same. Anyway, as promised, let's take a closer look at how Kenobi Vader compares to the 78 version. There are some pretty big differences in the sculpt, with the Kenobi Vader being somewhat more accurate to the source material with the chest robes and the codpiece. A big difference, of course, is their right arms and the way that they hold their lightsabers. Like this, you can also see how much better the figure looks with the sculpted robes around his legs. Now all that said, and as much as the Kenobi Vader looks better overall, I think that, now that I'm seeing them side to side, I might actually prefer the black lenses on the helmet of the 78 version. Finally, here's something that I know some people have been waiting for, the cape swap. While I will die on the hill that vintage vinyl capes look rubbish, I have to say that it looks pretty cool on the Kenobi Vader. Unfortunately the soft goods cape just highlights how bad the 78 Vader looks from the waist down. Anyway, that's enough comparisons, let's get the right cape back on his shoulders and wrap this review up. The Retro Collection Kenobi Wave Darth Vader is a really fun what-if figure that gives us an idea of what a 1980 Darth Vader might have looked like. It's better than the 78 version by some measure, and Hasbro's designers did a good job of evolving the style whilst keeping that vintage aesthetic. Whether you're a retro collection collector or just interested in having a cool Darth Vader toy on your desk to fiddle with during Zoom calls, I can definitely recommend this release. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you're new here and you've made it this far, then please do hit that subscribe button. The channel's been a bit slow to get going, but I've got more reviews and unboxings on the way. If you've got a Retro Collection Darth Vader, then drop a comment below and let me know what you think of it. Otherwise, take care in those outer worlds, and I'll see you next time.